Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on episode 4 of The Lion's Den. Today, I have some very special guests. Here we have Nadeska and Nathalie. These are amazing women that I work with. And I'm just going to do like a brief introduction of both. So we first have Nadeska. She is a communications director for a grassroots organization. And then we have Miss Nathalie, who is a public administration professional, and she's also a community organizer as well. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning, Loren. Thanks for having us.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yes, of course, of course. I'm so glad you guys are here with me. Today we're going to talk about um I guess it's not fun, but we're going to make it fun. Uh what it's like living in Florida and all of these
Woo!
crazy bills going on here. For those who don't know, I mean, Florida is really becoming a very conservative Jim Crow like law society or state. And we really want to have this conversation where we could not only just make you guys aware, but also for those who live in Florida, like, we got to do something different. We got to go out and vote. But we're going to do this with a little spice, okay? Because there are certain actors who are contributing to how things are going here, and this episode we're going to call them out. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to get into it. We're going to have a little fun and throw a little shade, of course. So, are you guys are you guys ready to get
Yes,
into it?
let's go.
Always.
All
Let's do it.
right. Yes. So, first things first. I want to know, just like I said, based on what's going on, describe Florida in one word for me so that viewers can really get a feeling on how, like, what's going on in Florida and how it feels to be living here.
You want to go first, or should
I
I?
can, I can get us started.
Okay.
I think one word for me that really describes Florida and like all the history of Florida would be resilient. Because I
Mm,
think that kind of like embodies like both like the human and the non-human, right? When we look like at the nature of Florida and just looking at like, I don't know, not to get too deep with it, but looking at the history of Florida and like the tribes that lived here that were welcoming the slaves that were escaping from the South, like we were just always like against all odds, and like the colonizers could not control the people that were living in Florida. There was always like that fight back. And then looking at like today and like the legislative session that we just had, it's like you said, like it's a toxic environment, but there's always people that are fighting back. So for me, like resilient really summarizes Florida.
wow. Yeah. That's so good. That's so positive too.
That was so positive, and
I
I'm
was
just
gonna
sitting
say
here
ghetto.
looking. I'm looking at her. I said, "Man, they're gonna judge me when I say my word."
Yeah, I was gonna say it's real ghetto. Like,
I didn't even want to call
listen,
Florida ghetto because it's like the ghetto be nice sometimes.
right, better than this, true. But oh my goodness, Natalie, what do you think? What is your word?
I've deduced it down to struggle. It's always a
Mm,
struggle. If we're not dodging legislative session, we're dodging alligators. We're dodging crazy people trying to bite your face off. So I would say the struggle. It's just always a struggle. You turn off the news, Florida again, and all the other states like, here goes Florida, Floridaing again.
uh-oh.
So, you just turn on the news and it's like Florida doing Florida things again. I'd be tired because every time I go out the state, you're like, oh, you from Florida? Interesting. How do you feel about all of the corrupt politicians? And now I have to speak for every single one of them. So it's a struggle in and out of Florida.
Yeah, yeah. Tired is the word I was gonna say. I'm tired. I mean, I don't
We
know
just
some
went downhill.
Sorry, the Nadeska had us here, and then we just
We should have ended with her. We should have ended on a high note. Sorry, girl. We really tried.
but it's just tired. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, Florida. Like, it's not like, I mean, I don't even know what to brag about. Like, okay, yeah, we got T-Pain, FAMU, Florida A&M. Yeah, that's it. Like, there's nothing else I'm really like, yeah, Florida, we got the beaches, we got the, it doesn't really matter because there's so much that like is not like this going on that impacts like how we live. Shoot, Disney not even affordable anymore to go. Like the theme parks are so expensive. I can't even tell you to come experience it because I wouldn't. It's too high. Like everything is too high. And like just hearing people have real conversations about wanting to leave or thinking about it, like because it's that bad. So yeah, that's kind of, just to sum up how the feelings are here in Florida. But there's also, like Nadeska named too, that there is hope. There is people that are willing to fight. We're in this fight, and um everything that's happening is absolutely fuel, and we know that something better is coming, because people have had enough. And that's one thing I at least have positively seen with these conversations about Florida is everyone can agree it's a lot of bad things happening here and something needs to change. So yeah. One of the things, well, like we said, we're gonna get into it, right? So we've named that there are a lot of people behind the bad things happening in Florida. So now we're going to get into that, and we're going to start naming who are some of these villains, Florida villains, and why, because this episode is the real villains of Florida. So we got to get into it. So I want Nathalie to kick us off with, sharing a couple bad actors and legislation as well that have impacted, our communities.
Of course, we're gonna start off strong with DeSantis.
The Satan.
The Satan. He is currently trying to call a special session specifically to start the process of legislation that's going to mimic SB4 from Texas, specifically geared at protecting Florida's borders from the influx of Haitian migrants. That's me being nice because that's not what he referred to them as. And I take that personal because I myself am a Haitian migrant. But outside of his foolishness, another actor that I would like to call out is Publix. I know my pub sub warriors are gonna come at me.
Tell them though. Tell them about Publix.
People. The fried chicken and Hawaiian roll warriors are gonna be on my neck. But Publix, okay. Don't let them sweet teas and the fried chicken fool you. These people are evil. Okay. The cupcakes and Publix cake. Nothing really beats Publix cake, but there's a reason why it's so good. It's to distract you from the fact that they're supporting some of the most harmful legislation that comes out of Florida. Is a distraction. The birthday party is a distraction. Them chicken tender subs, $6.99 every once in a while, is a distraction. So those are the two actors I want to call out.
Nathalie, I love you so much for naming Publix. Like, this is not, they're like on the top of my hit list. And like, I get it. They're like, they have this strong like hold on Floridians, but like,
right?
Like you said, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, y'all, they got a strong hold on me. So okay.
I literally got BOGOs yesterday. I literally went to Publix and got BOGOs yesterday. I hate them. I hate them.
It's like, I hate the fact that I have to use you. This is a toxic relationship you and I have.
Very, 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 very toxic, because I go like every Sunday and just to walk around. It's the weirdest thing. So yeah, when you think about getting those chicken tender subs, remember they're also hurting your community.
Damn, that's real. That's real.
Oh man. And then like with Texas, it's like Florida and Texas are competing to who can be the worst state. And it's wild to me. Like I feel like we're in this unnamed competition. Like it's somebody does something and then we do something, and then it's wild, to still be um experiencing that, and like people think, oh, racism and oppression, that's in the past. No, it's not. It's at your front door. um it's And I just want everyone to just really like wake up and see, like, hey, we got to do something, because I mean, they're just bold now. They don't even care.
They
They
don't.
do not even care. But since you named DeSantis, okay, we use it interchangeably. um I think what's really interesting is like certain people really think that he's doing a good job, and literally he has done nothing. Like, there has not been any improvements. And at least in the past, if you've had bad governors, there's something they can say they've done. But he's literally only been able to say, like, he's only addressed culture war issues, like that he names culture war issues. But it's like this man literally is making you pay more in taxes. Like, everything is so
Mm-hmm.
expensive. There's nothing, like, he hasn't there's nothing to show for what he's done. So yeah, I mean, Nadeska, if you want to share more of your thoughts, because since we've already started high with DeSantis.
Mm-hmm. I have to name with the DeSantis doing nothing. I thought it was so funny. I think it was last year. He gave some kind of break on the tolls on the highways and on those huge signs. It was like DeSantis has made it so you don't have to pay your toll. And like he's trying to make it like a big thing. Like, oh, thank you so much, DeSantis. Like you've literally done nothing, you know? And it's like, okay, we don't have to pay this toll tax, but like we have the most regressive tax system in the United States, you know, like it's horrible. So I just had to name that. It's funny. He tries to have these like fake wins, but yeah, we all know he's done nothing. So
Right. Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I mean, even when we talk about like education and um there being teachers and getting paid, and him trying to figure out ways to say, like, yeah, I gave them a raise. No, but let's talk about the shortage. Why is the shortage happening? Because you keep targeting children. I mean, when we go back to COVID times, you were penalizing them because they wanted to be safe, and then now
Uh,
you can't tell them
Mm-hmm.
what to teach. And I know, Natalie, you used to be a teacher as well. So is there something you want to add to that? Because that was a
during the
crazy time.
I was a teacher in 2020 when COVID done hit
Oof.
our, and I was like, why we gotta defend why we want to be safe? It was strange. It was really strange. Then
Wild.
again, Florida is strange. But I really want him to understand. And then you have to think as to what, as a whole, the Republican Party does, right? They take commands from one individual who may or may not be orange and wears the toupee. And then,
Cheeto.
like, who may not be sponsoring Cheetos on his own, who has told them to stand down, and not do anything in regards to anything, but push this narrative of these race wars. So, at one point in time, I kind of was like, yo, like when they was clowning him during his campaign road to the White House, DeSantis were talking. I started feeling some sympathy. But I was like, he's short. He can't think for himself. He taking orders from an orange man. Like maybe he just needs extra help. But
Mm.
really, to tell you the truth, they're working like they do not care. They have one specific agenda that they're going for. So you're thinking, why? Oh, education is the backbone of our society. Why would they attack teachers who literally is so pivotal and critical for our society? And since they claim that they love, holistic family values, we respect the hardworking people, teachers. Okay.
Mhm.
So to be quite frank with you, teaching in Florida has become the most disastrous thing I've ever seen developed in front of me. Not only, COVID is no longer the biggest problem that we're facing, but when you tell an educator what they can and cannot do, it ties them. It puts them in the most compromising situation because teachers get into the classroom because of passion. It's not one of
Mhm.
those things you disconnect from. A teacher does never disconnects from their work ever. And conditions were already, harsh for teachers when it came to them always being underpaid. It's not even a new thing. They were always underpaid because the
Mhm.
resources for you to be a successful teacher goes beyond what you get paid in the classroom, and you're not giving all the resources. I was responsible for making sure my classroom was nice and in welcoming to my teachers. And guess what? I mean, to my students, that was something that was required of me. It wasn't like optional. You were required. You were actually graded or assessed on whether or not your classroom environment was positive for students. They don't provide you with those resources. That is out of pocket expenses. All of
Hmm.
the incentives for your kids to encourage the learning happening in your classroom, that's out of pocket expenses. So, nonetheless, that was already a norm for teachers. Now you're adding the fact that now you're telling me I can't teach. But also think about the Black educators or educators who are part of the BIPOC community. You're putting them in a predicament where they're telling you that their history does not exist. You imagine standing there and like, of course I can't. Yeah, no, I am a Black woman and I can't discuss any of these things that occurred. That's ridiculous because representation matters in the classroom. So honestly, I don't blame my educator. I guess I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the problem. I left the classroom in 2022. I was
Mm.
part of the teacher flight. Yes, I'm part of the problem. That is, yes,
You're not. You're not. You're still in the fight from a different
No.
angle. That is
I
not
have the
true.
shortage. I'm part of the shortage problem.
But you're not the villain. You're not the villain. There's people pulling the strings, forcing you to be in the
Right?
situation.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
like that's so real. That's so real. Shout out to all the teachers out there for sure.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And talking about education and thinking about like one villain that I absolutely hate with all like my being. There's this billionaire called Jeffrey Yoss. He's from Pennsylvania and like shouldn't have
Yes.
anything to do with Florida. But this billionaire, literally from Pennsylvania, is the one like meddling in all these different states, including Florida. And he was the one that got HB1 passed last session, which is the one that took like
Mm.
billions away from public schools. So
Mm.
like because I feel like when we think about villains, it's easy and it's true. Like the legislators, like they suck. Like thinking about like all these representatives and senators, like so many of them are absolutely vile. But they're kind of like these like dismembered heads, like they're just doing what like their boss tells them to do. And the bosses are the
Right.
corporations and the billionaires. Like this guy, Jeff Yoss from Pennsylvania, that why is he meddling in Florida's business? Like
Right.
that's what like really pisses me off. Yeah.
Did you know he's the creator of Robinhood? I done told everybody to delete the darn app off of your phone.
Oh, wait, really?
Yes.
I thought there were a couple of people
He
because
is one
wasn't
of the main people behind Robinhood. And I was like, y'all better delete that darn app.
Oh,
Wow. Public service announcement. Yep.
Delete the
Delete
app.
it. Delete it.
because that was the one that Celine, what's her name? Wow, what's her name? What is the tenant? Wow, I'm going blank. Serena Williams. Her husband, wasn't he one of the people that created Robin Hood? I could have that wrong, but then he gave up
He
his
did
CEO.
Reddit. Wasn't he Reddit?
Was it Reddit?
He was
Oh, okay.
Reddit.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it was
Oops,
Reddit for
sorry.
him.
No. Okay, okay. But wow, I guess it's always interesting to hear, and I'm always like curious, like why is it that because you have some corporations where it's about the money, but then you have corporations that like get involved in like politics to have bills. I mean, and it's all still about money, but like they get more involved in making sure certain legislation happens, knowing it oppresses people. And I just like I don't understand why. Like, why are there people that do that? Like, what do you have to gain from that? I mean, I guess money, but
Yeah, it's always money. It's like the answer is
All is
always
money.
money.
yeah.
And
All
I
is
think like
money.
Natalie, you made such a good point with Publix with the examples of like they're really trying to distract us, right? It's
Mm,
like culture wars, like the impacts are real and it's horrible. Like what you were talking about with the stop woke teacher that like you can't even teach like true history in schools. Like the impact is real, but they're doing that to distract us so they can just like stuff their pockets. Like they sneak in all this
mm,
other legislation that people literally don't pay attention to because they're too worried about like the day-to-day impact of what like children are experiencing in schools. So I think that's the hard part because like our job is being able to like hold both. Like we
mm.
have to like pay attention to the culture wars, but realize that it's a distraction, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Because it's literally ridiculous. Like, what are we arguing for? Like, this is not an issue, but he knows that by doing this, you do have people who feel differently. And so then they think that like it's validating people's biases. And it's like, but no, like it's a distraction, guys. Like,
Yo, literal white supremacists were in the Capitol building this last session, like literal white supremacists, like confirmed publicly to support a bill. And he was like buddy buddy with the sponsor of the bill. Like when we talk about like, yeah,
whoa.
yeah, yeah.
And see, that's the thing that people need to like understand. They're becoming more bold and more bold. Like they don't care. And it's like, guys, you think what happened in the past can't happen now? They don't care. Like they're just doing stuff and they don't have to hide in the shadows anymore because how they're feeling is being validated. Things are happening that they believe in, and it's making them come out even the more. I mean, seriously, that's crazy. That's crazy, but it's also not surprising because when you walk into the state capitol, it's not a place for me. It's not a place for any of us.
Mm.
I mean, all you see are pictures of white people, white men, and I'm just like, okay, whose capitol building is this? It's not. I don't see myself on these walls unless I'm on the field somewhere, in one of these pictures. So, yeah, guys, we definitely got to wake up. Nadeska, I know you named a few villains. Or do you have any more that you'd like to share?
Oh, we could talk about this all day. I think one of the legislators that I want to name who's like the most corporate is Rep. Tiffany Esposito. Like
Mm.
she's the one that did all the like she attacked renters and like all housing rights last session, and then this year she did all the like labor preemptions and attacking working families. And so like if anyone is like truly like in the pocket of these billionaires and corporations, I would say Tiffany Esposito. And she always has this like creepy smile on her face. And yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
Just bad vibes, bad vibes. Had to name her. Yeah.
Wow. And it's like, why hurt the people you were elected to serve? It's always a
And then you have
puzzling.
like Erin Grawl, who's like they're like advocating for like all these crazy anti-abortion legislation, you know, like she
Mm.
had the fetal personhood bill that would have allowed like men to sue medical providers just because like the wife might have gotten a miscarriage or like had something happen to the pregnancy. And it's like, this is why like just being a female doesn't mean anything, you know? It's like, I don't know.
That's
Wow.
crazy. It's a mental
Yeah.
illness. You're asking why? Why would you harm your constituents? It's a mental illness. It's an illness. Mental. That's what it is.
Literally. And I this question was asked on TikTok, and I felt like it was such a real question, but like, do men even deserve rights? Wait, like someone answer. Because they're always doing things like to assert power, and it's just like, leave people alone. Literally, let people live their lives how they want to. I just don't understand. Like that
Leave
is
women
so,
alone.
leave
Not
us
people. Leave
alone.
women alone.
Like,
But like
oh
there's women attacking women too, you know? I feel like
yeah,
that's like
that's
like
pretty
like
true.
like Erin Grawl, you know, and Tiffany Esposito, like the two villains that are named, like they're also women. That's why I feel, yeah, I don't know. It's also
Yeah.
like,
I follow this thing on social media, and it's like weird facts you did not know. And back in the day, apparently women were not allowed to know their like diagnosis, like any medical diagnosis. They would inform their husband instead, because the doctor wouldn't talk to the woman. They would
Mm.
talk to the husband. So hearing laws like that, I'm like, are we obsessed with the past? Is that the good old America that they want? Are we literally obsessed? Not we. Are these group of people obsessed with America? Because if I had to travel back in time, I would not prefer America to be in. That I can't. Pre
Mm-mm.
1980s, 1990s. I don't want to be here for the 80s either. I will not be here. I will not be
No,
here.
I'd
So,
have to
but
be in
they
a
want
bubble.
they're obsessed with the past so
That's
bad because of the power dynamic. They're
mm-hmm.
obsessed with
mhm.
the past. That's why we're reverting back to some of these very old, outdated very harmful and hateful laws because they're obsessed with the past. They want that past. They want a past where women don't have any rights over their bodies. They want a past where people of color and do not have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And have and education is being utilized as a weapon against them again. We know what that looks like already. And to go back to what Loren said, we already know what happened in history. So there should be no excuse we know how this plays out. We should be a little bit more, I would say, a little bit more forceful in making sure it does not go back to that.
And they want to change history too, right? Which is the crazy part. Like they don't want it to be taught, and they want like these Confederate statues to be uplifted to like literally like we do not live in the Confederate States of America, and like they're literally stuck on something that is just it was not what happened. And there's a reason we are the United States, So
Yeah, yes, that like you just that always gets me because like I'm in the North Florida space, so we see a lot of chill people, other people wear the Confederate shirts and like all the different types of like clothing, and I'm just like, you realize it's actually anti-American, but like and I never understood it. Like they're like, no, it's not racial. It's it's Southern pride. You guys lost. Like it's like, except you were a loser. I don't know.
Losers.
Like loser. Like you lost. I don't get it. I really don't. And I don't like growing up, I just never could understand that. But these like they really think that it's not a problem. Like they will literally be like, yeah, it's just Southern pride. And you're like, okay. So, you just brought that up is a good point, but it also goes to show how important like history is because people will twist it to make it what their narrative is, especially if they want to tell that they were triumphant and they overcame. And it's like, no, you guys literally lost. Like and it literally represents being anti-American. But that's not their version they're telling. So that's why it is so important for us to, know our real and true history and not go into censorship or just flat out lying about what really happened. So yeah. So my next question for you guys, because it ties into what we've already been naming, like including censorship. What are some recent laws or bills that you think will have or has had the most impact on Floridians? And who wanted to go first? I'm sorry.
I'll kick us off.
Okay.
Because we're still dealing with the effects of these anti-immigration laws. Okay. So SB 1718, HB 1617, whichever version you want to go with, has led there to be a domino effect of different legislation. It was like the precedence for what needed to happen. So that I want to talk about that because it went into effect already last year, and now we're seeing what impact it had on this year's legislative session. But we're now being presented with SB4, and what people do not know is SB 1718 inspired Texas for SB4, and they saw what was going on. And now we're too like, oh, we like how y'all did what we did first, so let's try to bring SB4 here. For those of you all who do not know, but that's legislation in Texas stating that you have the right to literally arrest or target or attack someone that you deem to be undocumented. Like you have the right to do that. So I think that one was horrible. That was absolutely horrible. It just led to a slew of, it was fear, caused a lot of fear. It caused a lot of misinformation for people, just unwarranted stress. So that's something, and specifically, I work with immigration. I think has been one of the worst pieces of legislation that we've seen in a while because it was blatantly outwardly yeah, no, we are tired of pretending and hiding under our hateful beliefs. We're just going to create legislation now that's very on the nose that we don't like or want certain people around us anymore. And the real crime is within our borders. Okay. like you said, they those people who really believe in the whole Confederacy, that was treason. You guys are uplifting treason. Okay. It was the most anti-American thing to happen, but they were absolutely right. It is Southern pride because Southern pride is mixed in there with hate, xenophobia. Okay, so they are absolutely right. It is Southern pride, but that piece of legislation for me is probably one on the top. There's been a lot, but that one
Mhm.
stuck out to me the most.
Yeah, and I don't think what people really understand is like how much like the immigrant community really does like contribute to Florida, like not only the culture, but even economically, right? And so, and honestly, I hear this a lot where you do see a lot of blame being thrown to that community. So, Natalie, why like what what is something or how can people what is something people need to know, like misinformation that's been shared about the immigration community? What's something that people need to know that you think would maybe change their mind around that? Because I hear a lot of like, yeah, they just blame like, oh, this is too expensive, and oh, we don't have jobs because of, and it's just like, no. So what would you
Not
share
real.
to those people? Yeah.
The
It's good.
Lulu is not the Salulu. You all are delusional. Um,
Mhm.
the First of all, illegal aliens is so harmful. That
Mhm.
term itself is bad, but the thought that immigrants are coming to steal jobs, the jobs that immigrants are doing, you will never do. People leave their countries as doctors, as teachers, as lawyers, and they come into the country because they are hardworking and they actually do uphold those family values that some people really base their laws on. And they work hard. That whole idea of picking yourself up by the bootstraps, which is not real, it's craziness. But
Mhm.
immigrants come into this country working their way up. Okay, they will take those jobs, that they honestly are above in the sense that in education and their status back home, they will be the custodians, they will do the farm work, they will be the dishwashers, they will do anything required because the only reason that they even sought to come to this country was this opportunity that their family will be better. So immigrants are not these like illegal people who are criminals coming to the country stealing your jobs, and oh, they're so expensive because your taxpayer dollars are taking care of them. First and foremost, immigrant people are afraid to seek out uh, public assistance. They're paying taxes. They go to the store and purchase stuff, it's taxed. Everything they do is taxed. So I'm not
Mhm.
understanding this idea that your taxpayer dollars are taking care of them because they usually do not accept public assistance because they're too afraid, one. And two, this idea that they're bringing criminal activity. You honestly think that every single one of the people who have sought refuge in this country is just out here looking to harm you? The Just think about the logic behind that. If you look at the crime rates of individuals in the United States or South Florida, it's not migrants or immigrants. It's not.
Mm-mm.
Like
Mm-mm.
I don't know where this narrative came from, and I've since everything has occurred with Haiti specifically because DeSantis commissioned like soldiers to come down and enforce the borders of Florida against illegal Haitian migrants. Um, I've seen some of the comments. It was like, send them back home. We're being attacked. By what? What are you being attacked by? Individuals seeking refuge? Um, and I've seen a narrative, and I don't stay too long on those type of things because it's like, oh, we are not taking care of people. You're not taking care of anyone. Your tax dollars are not taking care of anyone. You should be
Right?
more upset that like 50 million was allocated to DeSantis to fight illegal aliens. You should be afraid. You should be upset about that. That's real tax dollar money being utilized for an imaginary problem. We do
Yep.
not have a problem. We do not have a border problem. Criminals are not, you're not walking down the street being attacked by folks who are not from the United States. That's not occurring. Your
Right.
economy is not actually being crippled, to be quite frank. If you have more people willing to work and pump back into the economy, that's better for you. But that's neither here nor there. I want people to stop thinking of this fear associated with folks coming to the United States. And of course, nobody want to listen to the fact, or they don't care about history to know that this is stolen land. None of y'all actually belong here
Hello.
to begin with. You all are the one who sold the American dream to the world. Y'all taught people how to do this. And you're upset that
Hello.
they learned it from you. And now you're upset because only you could have done it. Once you did it,
Mhm.
you don't want no one else to follow in your footsteps.
Facts.
They're learning from you. Okay? So that's all I gotta say about that.
Natalie came to read down today, okay?
Woo! Natalie. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Woo!
Those
Yes,
are great
ma'am.
points.
So
I do want
yeah, Nadeska, I was gonna ask you next. Yeah, go for it.
because those are great points, Natalie. That was so on point. I want to add one of the talking points that makes my blood boil is the one about like immigrants are bringing drugs into this country. It's like, I know people don't care about facts, but literal facts, the people bringing it in are white people. Like,
Hello.
so that one just really pisses me off. And I want to name like hearing that your family, you're from Haiti. You came from Haiti, or you're okay. My mom is Cuban, so like my mom came to Florida in the '60s. Um, and it's just like Florida has all these crazy dynamics when it comes to immigration as well. Because I hate the way that like Cuban people and Cuban trauma is weaponized, right? Like when you hear legislators talk about
Mm.
like we have to protect the Cubans from communism, and like we still have policies that allow Cuban people to easily enter the United States. And like how come we don't have that same open embrace to other immigrants, you know? So it's like, yeah, I always feel like I'm holding this tension. Like the reason I was able to like, you know, my family was able to get a passport and I was able to be here today was because of this like openness to Cubans. But then like the
Mhm.
way that Haitians are treated, you know, like, yeah,
It's
there's a lot to
called
hold.
anti-black. It's called anti-black. It's anti-black.
Anti-black.
It's
That's what
Mhm.
that
anti-black.
is.
That's
Yeah,
what that
name
is.
it.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yep, and that's just examples of how they try to pin one group over to another to again to keep power in their hands, right? Because if we're all too busy fighting, then we don't really see who's really the villains, who's really the ones that are doing the dirt. And so yeah, that's a great point to make. So yeah, Nadeshka, I want to also ask you which laws or bills do you think have had the most impact or will have the most impact?
To pivot a little bit, I think there was one other thing I wanted to add on to Natalie, because I think that was a great point about HB 1718, HB 1718, SB
SB.
1718
Mhm.
from last year. This was the anti-immigration policy from last session, and the fact that it does have a lot of impacts on what we're seeing still this year. And I feel like a direct tie there is literally HB 49, which is the child labor rollbacks from
Mm.
Rep. Linda Cheney. Rep. Linda Cheney, who's one of the sponsors, she literally said in a statement to a news source that one of the reasons for HB 49 was to fill the labor shortage created by the anti-immigration policy from last year. Like she literally said this publicly. And it's like the
Girl,
solution to a labor shortage, the solution to a labor
to hire
shortage is to
children.
pay people what they should get to live,
Right.
you know,
Instead.
provide social benefits,
Right.
like not like roll back child labor.
Right.
So had to name that. That's a wild one. Um,
Yeah.
but I think yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. It makes no sense. But yeah, anything else? Yeah.
I think one bill that I know like um on my team were saying like if there's one bill we should all be talking about from now until November to hold legislators accountable, it's HB 433.
Mm.
This is they call it the omnibus labor preemption bill, which basically means like it's a lot of bad shit pushed into one. It's super anti-worker. It's a preemption, so like they're basically like not allowing local governments to do what's right for their communities, and it's essentially
Mm.
going to slash the living wage for thousands of workers in Florida. And this is also the one that it started because of the protections for heat workers that they were trying to pass in South Florida. Like, isn't that crazy that Florida does not have any protections for heat workers? Like, that's so insane to me. Like, they don't have to get water breaks, they don't have to get
Mm.
shade, and they're at a point. I think it was like late last year, where like in South Florida, they were getting ready to pass some local legislation. So then during legislative session, they came out with this preemption to make sure that they couldn't pass those local laws. So basically, with HB 433, like people's living wages are getting slashed.
Mm.
Heat protections for workers preempted, and there's also something about the preemption of scheduling that like is just going to make basically it's just making workers' lives miserable. So when we're
Mhm.
talking about like what's really going to impact everyday Floridians, like the working families in the state, HB 433, uh, Esposito, Rep. Esposito that I mentioned earlier is one of the sponsors on this bill. And yeah, just vile. I would have to name that one.
Wow. And for the listeners and viewers, you mentioned preemption. Can you just give like a basic definition on what that means for folks?
Definitely. Preemption essentially means that it's an attack on local freedoms, I think is the best way to put it, because it prevents, like I mentioned, local governments from making decisions that are best for their communities. And we've seen a huge push for preemptive bills in the last few years in Florida at the state level. And I think that actually tells a really interesting story because it's the fact that so many local governments have been successful in passing progressive policies like they had the municipal IDs in South Florida. They were trying to pass the
Mhm.
heat protection bills that I just mentioned. There were tenant rights and like a lot of great things and housing that were being passed at the local level. And they were doing that because nothing was being done at the state level. So
Mhm.
once the state realized that this was happening, they're using preemption basically as a way to prevent those local wins and prevent those progressive policies from continuing. So it's horrible, but it shows that like we've been doing something right and like this is
Mhm.
them fighting back. So resiliency, it comes back to resilience. Like we've been doing it right and we just got to keep it going. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it highlights the point even the more of how local elections are so
So
important, guys.
important.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been pushed to only center national, but like local literally impacts your day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine if we actually had leaders that actually wanted to like do do what their community wanted and support them and put in policies it's going to make them have a better and high quality life. Like how much we would all be doing better, especially like after the pandemic. So that's why like every single local election you have to like vote. Like you have to hire and fire these people who are not doing the things that benefit you and your community. Um and don't think that like your vote doesn't matter. It quite literally does, especially locally, guys. That's I think one of the biggest like things we've been tricked about, because you only really hear people, especially like in school and stuff like that, like you're only hear them talk about national elections, and it's like no, but we need more education on the local elections. And that's what we do on a daily basis in our jobs, in our spaces. But like please, like go and learn what these how these different positions work. They're all connected, they all work together. And the money too, like follow the money trail, because that tells you a lot of things too, what's going on in Florida. So these things are really important, and we're in an election season, so I need everybody who is subscribed to my channel and listening to me on podcast on Spotify. We got to vote. You're from Florida, we need you to vote. And then also, if you're not from Florida, speak out. And if you have friends from Florida, or you're coming here for spring break or to Disney World, like tell them they need to vote as well, because it's serious. Like, or it's serious. Like, yeah. So was there anything else, Natalie, you wanted to add, or?
In regards to the preemption,
Mm.
I wanted to add the fact that you sparked the fact that organizing on a local level is actually working, because it was organizers and nonprofits who brought to attention about the workers and the heat. And I want to add more to the fact that environmentally speaking, we had the hottest year in Florida.
Literally, yeah.
Um, sea levels are rising, and they're ignoring that. Another thing, if you're having a shortage, a labor shortage, why would you put conditions that would cause there to be more of a labor shortage? So just because something is a law doesn't mean it makes sense, and you should definitely question and challenge everything in regards to what happens. And just another level of clarity for preemption, because state laws have quote unquote more power than local laws. That's what preemption is saying, because we know that state legislation can overtake the local laws, we're going to utilize our ability because there's a hierarchy with laws. Just as federal laws have take preemption over state and local laws. For those who wanted to get more clarity on regards to preemption. So going back to the fact that you have to vote for your reps, vote for your senators. They have to be and hold them accountable once they get in office.
Mm-hmm.
You have to hold them accountable. You have the ability to schedule meetings with them. If you have the resources, you have the ability to go visit them at their front door. And there's local offices too. You better be holding them accountable, and you need to be 10 toes down standing on business when it comes to things that affect you. And those votes happen at the local level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
That's a
right.
great
Stand
point,
on business.
Natalie, because I think something that the right does really well is making sure that their elected leaders are working for them and not the other way around. At least like in
Mm-hmm.
the traditional Democratic space, it feels like, oh, there's a big Democratic candidate and like we're all like, rallying behind them and getting out the vote for them. And then like they don't do shit for us. So I think that's like holding them accountable. It's voting is a process, right? It's like, okay, voting is just one day, but then actually doing the work to make like meeting our needs. I think, yeah, that's such an important point. And the fact that like corporations like Publix are paying attention to like smaller local races, like they're looking at the school board. It's like they're looking at the councils. So
Mm-hmm.
just yeah, the fact that like they're paying attention, like we really need to be on that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And people's focus needs to be looking at policy and not like when you're electing a leader, look at the policy. Like, and that goes into holding them accountable. Sometimes we get caught up because, at least in my community of Leon County, even though it's more democratic, um, or more like democracy, or not democracy, Jesus, Democrats, um they're because they're friends with the people or they know them, they're very lenient, and it's like, no, let's look at what are they doing to help benefit our community. We don't care about, okay, they're a Democrat, like, yes, just okay, cool, but what are you doing to help our communities? Like, we don't need just things in place to look good. And that goes back to, again, holding them accountable, even if they are an ally, or they're on our side. They have a job to do. They're here to represent our community, and they need to do that. So,
Period. Full
yeah.
stop.
I
That
was
was
about to
it.
say preach right there. That's preach.
So I want to move us into a bit of a fun question. Okay. If Florida legislature were a cocktail, what would it be? Let's start off with you, Nadeska.
Ooh, okay. Because I feel like there's two that I have in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, okay, like to be clear, as we've been hearing from this conversation, like currently the Florida legislature is not reflective of Florida. So I want to name that. Like that's important. So one that comes to mind is a Molotov cocktail, just like literal gasoline in a glass lit on fire. Like that's the cocktail. Like I would not want to drink any kind of cocktail that is related to the Florida legislature, just like something really toxic. So that was one thing I was envisioning. Or I've read there's like these like diamond martinis that are worth like $20,000 a drink. And just like the fact that the
Mm.
Florida legislature is so bought out from billionaires, like it could also
Mm.
just be like something like super annoyingly bougie. Um, those are my two Florida cocktails.
Okay, Natalie.
A Bloody Mary. Exactly. You see that face you just made? That's exactly what I think about when I think about the legislative session, like legislature and all of this process and these policies. A Bloody Mary. I don't want it. Why is it on the menu? Who drinks this?
A
Who's
lot of people
keeping
like them though. A lot of people like Bloody
exactly?
Marys.
You're shocked. It's like you go and you're like, oh my God, ew, what's that?
Mm.
Who's secretly ordering them? Who likes these? A lot of people actually like them, and that's why they're still on our menu. Think about that.
Wow, that's really good. That's really good. I
See?
like that a lot. Bloody Mary.
Dang, I don't know about a cocktail because I was like trying to think. Because I'm a very particular drinker, but I will say if there's a drink I could think of, probably beer, because it's like nasty, but men love it. I don't know.
It's an acquired taste.
It's disgusting. Like what? Yuck. Like
I like beer. I like
you
beer.
do?
Sorry, I do.
Oh
I do.
no.
But not like piss beer, like nice like
That's
IPAs. It's like legislator would be like a piss beer, like a Bud
pissy.
Light. I'm saying like a Bud Light.
Yes, exactly. Like it could just be that real nasty.
Mm.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Mhm.
mm-mm.
Mhm. And like warm. It's warm and it's old.
Ugh,
It's been open since like yesterday.
just old
Yeah.
and nasty and So, okay, last question before we get into our a little game. You know, we like to do games here on the Lions Den. Last question. Why should we care about what's happening in Florida, and what can we do to change it? And I know we've already touched really on why we should care. But like, so let's lean more into, what can we do to change about it? We've already named voting, but there are a couple other things that you all can do to change the landscape in the direction that Florida is going into. So Natalie, what's something that you think people can do to change that?
Honestly, my whole like what I live by is education is the seed of change.
Mm,
People get away with things
yeah.
due to a lack of knowledge and ignorance. Publics get away with supporting these politicians because we don't know that they're doing it. Once you out people and you reveal what they're doing through education, through just informing your, like literally having conversation like we're doing now, I'm pretty sure some people who are listening to this now did not know that Publix was attached to that. And Walmart, let's not forget them, and all of these actors that
Yeah.
are part of these
Mass
communities that
incarceration.
people hold up to. So the same Walmart the same Wally World y'all be going to is the same Wally World that's supporting your cousins and in jail, like that want
Yep.
your children to end up in jail through the school to prison pipeline, which is real. What people do not know, they cannot hold accountable. So education, people need to be informed. So once you find a piece of knowledge or you found some interesting facts that impact your family or community, say something. And then not only that, understand the fact that you can hold these people accountable. They can't arrest you. Freedom of speech or your ability to assemble, they cannot arrest you for speaking out. Calling these individuals, making it your business to know who is attached to the legislation, who controls my day to day, from the day that I wake up, from the time that I wake up from my front door to the time that I come back home. Who's making sure that my roads don't have potholes? Who's making sure this is a well lit area? Who's making sure that the students that I have or the kids that I have, their teachers are comfortable? You need to know who's in charge of all those things because there are actors that are making sure these things are upheld. You need to know. So education is the best thing. Know who are on those ballots during local elections. And I always tell people, I don't care who's in the White House. I care who's down the street from me. I care whose
Mm,
office that I can go and knock on and say, hey, like, yo, why did you do that?
mhm.
Legislative session was over. I saw you. Why did you pass that law? You know, you could call these people. So that's what I'm saying, like education, making it a thing. And not everybody has the ability to sit there and go through it. But those of you all who have the ability to learn and have the gift of brevity, take on that mantle and say, I'm going to make it a thing to inform my family of what is the most important to us. So I definitely believe people need to know. They just need to know and out people. Once you
Mhm.
out them, and you back that outing with some action, voting, and you get them out of office, that is when you can do that. People go to great lengths to hide and cover what
Mhm.
they're doing. Okay, great lengths. They will not publicize. DeSantis had gotten a billboard saying that he lowered the tolls. Why didn't he get a billboard to say that he's attacking Haitian refugees? Why
Yeah.
didn't he do that? They only broadcast the good, you know. But that's just my thing. Be educated and hold people accountable and out
Right.
them.
Yep. Nadeska?
Natalie, I love what you said about like okay, that yes, there's someone in the White House, but who really matters is like who's down the street from you. And like that's the person that
Yeah.
you should really be building relations with. Because I want to name like we're in a big election year and people are about to get like inundated with like you have to vote or die. And like I think it's very understandable. Like people get like fatigued, and it like becomes like they don't want anything to do with it because like it's just too much. So I think like looking at these down ballot races, looking at Florida, like yes on 4, like we're gonna put abortion on the ballot. We're gonna have the opportunity to like get out and like protect our reproductive freedom. Like looking at these things, like you said, Natalie, that like really impact our day to day. I think that's so important just for like our own like sustainability, because I think, yeah, of course, looking at things at the national level is always important, but like we should really start local and build out from there, just like also for our own peace of mind, I think, like feeling things that are more real. Um, and I know we were moving kind of away from why Florida, but there is like one point I wanted to uplift. I think Loren, you said earlier that it's true that like looking at like even like Florida, Texas, like divisive policies and rhetoric that happen in Florida, like it spreads across the South, and that
Mhm.
like and the South is like the key to the entire nation at this point.
Mhm. Yep.
But I think it's also important, like with that narrative, like flipping it and realizing that like Florida is also a beacon for like what's possible for the progressive movement. And I always think about 2020 with the $15 minimum wage.
Yeah.
Like we were the first state in the South to pass this minimum wage and the first one in the country to do it with a ballot measure. Like I just
Mhm.
find that so dope. And the measure got like over 60% of the vote, which is more than any of the presidential candidates in 2020, So like I just feel like, yeah, the story of Florida is so powerful. So it's like really important for us to like own that and like show like the positive side of that. And like we saw after the turning of Roe v. Wade, like people like were coming in droves to get abortion access here. Like we saw that uptick in procedures in the state. So again, just like really excited in November that we are like not official yet, will be confirmed soon, like have the opportunity to really protect abortion in Florida and change the narrative for the South and change the narrative for the country.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even looking at Amendment 4 with returning citizens getting
Mhm.
their being able to restore their ability to vote. I mean, we did that. The community showed up and we made that change, right? So it's doable. We can do it. And we have that power to do it. We've done it before. We can do it again. So we just all have to come together and fight for our communities and fight for our future, fight for our children, fight for our neighbors, right? And yeah, we can be that beacon of hope like you named. So that's really good, really real. Okay. So let's move into our game that I like to call, or that it's called,
Nervous.
it's called Fact or Fiction, Florida edition. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to list a series of Florida laws, ridiculous Florida laws, and you're going to tell me if they're your opinion, if they're fact or fiction, right? That's it. Super
Okay.
simple. Okay.
It's all
So
real.
all right, question number 1. In Florida, it's illegal to sing while wearing a swimsuit in a public place. Is that
That's
fact
that's
or
fact. That's fact. I learned
fiction?
that on TikTok.
Nadeska?
I'm gonna say fact because I have no idea. And Natalie was very convincing, but like, tell me more about this. What is that for real?
Is it real or not?
Yes, it is fact. This is a real law in Florida. So, spring breakers,
Yeah, better not be
watch
singing.
out.
We already told you don't come to Miami. Well, you can't
No.
come to Miami, period, because we broke up with y'all.
Specifically
Literally.
to sing? It's illegal to sing in a bathing suit? Is that what you said?
It
In
is
public.
illegal to sing while wearing a bathing suit in a public space.
I will
So,
I will be going down a rabbit hole for that one. Oh my gosh. Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like an older law that's never been taken out of, because that law is we're in Florida, is has been broken by everybody. Um, all right.
Wow.
Next question. In Florida, it is illegal to be unhoused.
It's about to be.
That is not true.
It's true. No, it's true.
It's illegal to be unhoused.
Fact. Yes.
That's
The
the one that just
new
got signed 2 days ago?
Yes,
Two.
House Bill 1365 prohibits Florida cities and counties from allowing people to sleep in public spaces in places.
They passed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Passed and signed.
Sorry. Continue.
Right.
And just a quick thing, that was because of a corporation, Cicero Institute. They're from Texas. Just saying, more corporate influence. Mm-hmm.
Why? You
Mhm.
know what?
Texas.
They keep my words to myself. Continue. What?
Yep. All right.
Say that bill again. Say that bill again for the people to hear.
It is House
Florida.
Bill 1365. And again, I told you it's a competition between Texas and Florida. Who could be
Who
worse?
could be worse?
We gotta stop brunching, guys. We gotta go vote. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
take a break from brunching and let's go vote for these day parties. Let's go vote.
Let's go
That's
vote, then go to brunch, and then go to the day
right.
party.
Let's
Mhm,
hold a
mhm.
voting brunch. Oh, yeah. We can hold a voting day party.
Listen, let's submit that one. See
Brought
what
to you by Lions
what's it.
Den. Yes, remember June 31st. All right. Question number 3. Is it illegal or okay? You cannot eat cottage cheese after 6 p.m. on Sundays.
There's
No.
no way. There's no way. I'm gonna say
Okay.
false.
I
False.
see a trend here. Fact.
It is true. Fact. This is a law in the Tampa Bay area.
I live in Tampa.
Y'all better not be eating cottage cheese.
I love cottage cheese.
Do not incriminate yourself. Don't admit this.
It's again one of those old things that have just not been changed in legislation. But yes, it is
No.
in fact illegal to eat cottage cheese after 6 p.m. on a Sunday in Tampa.
That is insane. Okay.
These
Okay.
laws goes to show with the right people, you can literally put any type of law in place, including the ones that are supposed to help our communities. Be inspired by these ridiculous laws, not
Mhm.
discouraged.
Love
Yep.
that spin. I love that. Yes. That was
Facts.
good.
All right. Last question or last one. Okay. In Florida, it's illegal to wear a mask in public protests.
I feel like something like that
Yeah.
happened last year. I think that's real.
I think that's real. I think this was something. Yeah, something like this happened because I remember the protest from 2020, the summer, the blackout summer of 2020. They were like, "Yeah, you can't come. You have to show your face or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
this is
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
This is real. That's fact.
Fact. Yeah. It is a real law in Florida. You cannot wear a mask if you do a public protest.
Yeah.
Wild, right? Woo. Yeah. So
Those were good, Lauren. Those were good.
Those are really, really
Nice.
good.
Yeah.
thank you guys for playing. Thank you. Thank you.
I
Thank
learned a
you.
lot. I learned to
Yeah.
eat cottage cheese on Sundays after 6 p.m.
Don't you dare stop eating that cottage cheese at 5:59
And no more dancing and singing in your bathing suit.
in a public place. You can't go to Publix and
Crazy.
start singing in your bathing suit.
Right, right. And there will be a voting brunch coming soon. All right. To wrap up the show, I like to always give my guests on the show an opportunity to conclude in this segment I like to call Touch Grass. This is where you can say what you want to say how you feel. I give everyone 30 seconds. It doesn't matter really. Yeah, it's my show. I do what I want. You can have 30 seconds to a minute to just rant, whether you want to say how you feel, you want to call someone out, or you want to bring people in. The choice is yours. I'm going to kick it off with who wants to go? Is there anyone who wants to go first or? Okay, let's just kick it off with Nathalie.
Okay, this one is personal. This goes out to DeSantis in your little attempt at attacking Haitian refugees. I just want you to think, you little short man, your shortness, your shortness. I know you're closer to the devil because you're short, but I just want you to think higher than your height and think about the humanity of people. There's a crisis going on in the country, and about the majority of Haitian migrants reside in Florida. And my family and thousands of other families came into this country and worked our way, and we started our generation, new generation in this country, because we have found home. We've placed our roots in Florida, and we've helped build this country. We've contributed to this country. The hotels are filled with Haitian workers, the restaurants, literally the tourism and hospitality industry is filled with Haitian immigrants. And we've also worked and gone to the schools. We've been elected officials. We've been bankers. We've been politicians. We've done so much for Florida. And we're asking for once, you think outside of your own bigoted thoughts and your own groupthink behavior when it comes to your Republican Party and their nonsense. We're asking that for once you take this opportunity in the limelight to do something good to uplift humanity and not your very uh, selfish and political points. So it is for that one is directed to you. Although you are thinking about having a special session to go and criminalize refugees, just know the Haitian fan or the Haitian community, as we did before, being the first Black nation to gain its independence, and because of that, you and other people were the United States was afraid and decided for years that it will tear and break us down. It's 2024. Although we are in crisis, we are still alive, and we are still going to be fighting for that good fight. So beware, South Florida and all of the Haitian community is out to get you.
Yes. Period. So touch grass, DeSantis. Yes. We
That was
love it. We
beautiful.
love
That was
it.
beautiful. I was just thinking about his stupid little like heeled boots that whole time too. That's so stupid.
The short man.
Vertically challenged. All right, Nadeska, the floor is yours.
Okay, I was trying to figure out if I want to throw some shade. Would you? I think I
Do it.
actually I want to ground us a little bit more in the history of Florida because I want to tie it back to kind of what I said in the beginning about like Florida really symbolizing resilience and like from the beginning, like Florida was built on welcoming people in and like protecting our communities. Like that's really what Florida is grounded in. And hearing you talk about the Haitian Revolution, Natalie, like one of the reasons that the United States like eventually took Florida as a territory is because they were scared. Like it was
Mhm.
around the time of the Haitian Revolution. They saw how like slaves were escaping and moving to Florida and being protected by the tribes, and they were like, "This is too powerful. We already saw what's possible, so like we need to make sure to like take control of the peninsula." So although eventually that is what happened, again, it shows like we are powerful, you know, and it's like things like the Haitian Revolution, like it inspires people and it gets the right people scared. So I think just like knowing that's a part of Florida history, like for me, that really like, you know, it gives us power. And I think it's really grounding. And like I said, I think, yeah, communities here, like we're fighting back. And I think there's this like unhealthy, like, it's not even true, this binary of like blue state, red state, and like Florida's not blue anymore. It's like it doesn't fit into the math of like winning like the country, but it's like there's people here. There's people here that are suffering. There's people here that are oppressed. And I think, yeah, Florida will always be worth fighting for, in my opinion.
Mm.
So I'll leave it at that.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, ladies, so much. This was such a powerful conversation. Everyone, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. This episode will recall out the real villains of Florida. I'm your host, Loren Lyons. Thank you for tuning in to the Lions Den. See you guys later.
Thanks, Loren. Thanks,
Thank
Natalie.
you.